Howdy, everybody. My name is J.R. Sparrow. I host a lot of shows. Everything is based around West Virginia. Well, not even based around it. West Virginia is just part of the title, but the thing is uncommonplace. When you have something that is uncommon, um, it can reach to a status of taboo, and then sometimes it doesn't reach to a status of taboo. It's just something that doesn't have a common ground in certain places. And today, I have somebody with me that's very strategic. That's part of their title. They're a veteran, and we love everyone in all parts of armed services on this show. And we love the idea of someone that has served our military in any facet coming into podcasting and enlightening the world and bringing them on a journey. So today I have with me Adam Peters. And the nostalgia question that we do on the show is we ask, who are you? So, Mr. Adam Peters, it's your turn. Who are you?
Oh man, that's a heater right out the gate. I guess I'm just a guy that's trying to be a guy I didn't have when I transitioned out of the military. Just a guy that genuinely cares about helping improve the quality of everyone who I meet's life. Whether that's just one step forward, five steps forward, 100 steps forward. I take pride in knowing that I don't have to destroy things anymore. I can help people, build their lives up and just live better lives.
Okay. Now, we did a little bit of introduction. So, let's take the introduction, make a background so people can get deeper with you. Adam, can you share your journey from military service to becoming the strategic veteran?
Yeah, man. Born and raised in Southern Indiana. Knew I wanted out. The college wasn't an option for me. Did kind of the bare minimum to keep my grades up so I could just play sports. So I joined the Army at 17, spent a year in the delayed entry program, left 1 month to the day after I graduated. I was barely 18 years old. From there, obviously Fort Benning for basic training, 16 weeks. Get to my first unit about somewhere between 2 weeks and a month after they came home from the invasion of Iraq. So life for me as a private was pretty miserable. It was pretty awful. Shortly thereafter, the end of 2004, I would be deployed for the first time to Iraq. And that would kind of define the rest of my career, where I would deploy every other year until I was med boarded out, medically retired in 2015. After that, went through what was then called the ACAP process, which is the Army Career Assistance Program. It was the transition program when I was getting out. It's now called SFL TAP. And it's really just largely a joke, man. It's a cover your ass, check the box kind of deal for the military to kind of say they did something to prepare you to get out. What that actually looks like is they throw a bunch of resources at you, and I'm trying to remember because it's been a decade since I went through it, and I did most
Okay.
of mine kind of online. I wasn't doing most of it in person like a lot of people do. Really weird circumstances when I was getting out. They were really trying to get me out as fast as possible because all of my paperwork got lost in digital land for about 18 months. And when you're in limbo like that, you take up a slot in the unit that you're assigned to that somebody else needs to come in and replace you for, but till you're off the books, they can't do that. So anyway, long story short, they throw a bunch of resources at you. They don't give you time to digest them or teach you how to employ them. Probably, if I had to guess, the best thing that comes out of it, and it's not really that great, is they teach you how to write a resume. And then they kind of pat you on the ass and say, good luck, get a college degree, and hopefully you have success in the corporate world. So the first 4 years of my transition were pretty easy because I did what they suggested. I went to college. I went to get an AST in professional pilot, so I am a commercial pilot. And then from there, I went on to the Evergreen State College and finished getting my bachelor's in business and psychology. And that's when things got rough for me because it's time to go back to corporate America. And, the first time really for me, I mean, I don't really count the kind of the vape shop stuff and managing a gun store while I was in college because my main focus was on college. I was getting money, money was coming in for being in college, and then I had, money coming in from managing, the gun store and then working retail at the vape shop. So those weren't like really that bad. Plus, I kind of knew the owners of both of those places. However, while I was running the gun store, I discovered I was really good at all of the business operations. And it got to the point where I was working 7 days a week and the owner wasn't showing up. So
Oh, whoa.
so I used a program to finish my bachelor's called Voc Rehab. It's another benefit that we have as 100% total and permanent disabled veterans. I think you can get it even less than that. I forget how Voc Rehab works, but one of the stipulations is they'll give you extra money for about 3 months after you finish your degree while you're looking for a job, and it works kind of like unemployment, where you have to apply to jobs on a weekly basis. I think the only difference is that you can't refuse any interviews. So I would get a ton of interviews. I'd go to all of them, and I got sold hook, line, and sinker on the insurance industry, man, because it was lucrative. But I didn't know what I didn't know about the insurance industry. So I did, man. I packed up everything, left Washington State. My wife and I went to South Carolina, and I would start learning how to knock doors, selling final expense to the poorest 1/3 of Americans. And that didn't last very long. I was broke within about 4 months. Because you're selling an intangible product to people who can't afford to live, which is just the sad reality of it. I got in on the scummy side of insurance, which kind of ruined me for the whole industry. I left that job and picked up a work from home health insurance job. Was having really good luck with that, and then they turned off the lead money for 10 days.
Oh, man.
And anybody who's worked a commission only sales job, if you don't have a constant flow of leads coming in, you end up not making any money. So from there, I kind of just did the only thing I knew how to do. I printed off 12 or 15 copies of my resume and drove to every big box property and casualty store in the Columbia, South Carolina area. So every State Farm, every Allstate, every Progressive, every Geico that I could find. And I would just walk in and ask if the agency owner was there, say who I was. I have a resume. I'm looking for a job. I walked away that day with 4 or 5 job offers. Chose to go with an Allstate agent based on some promises and some career progression that I thought was going to align with me, and getting a Series 6, 63, and Series 7, being able to handle some higher end, more regulated finance stuff, even more lucrative. And none of that actually panned out. So by Thanksgiving, I was in that job for about 6 months. The agency owner wouldn't answer phone calls from the book of business. He wouldn't talk to people from the book. He stiffed me on like $6,000 worth of commissions on the property and casualty and life insurance side. So I was fed up, man. When that commission check didn't come in, I tendered my letter of resignation. He had left early for an extended 4-day Thanksgiving vacation, left me as the only agent in the office, no time off. So on that Friday or that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I just left my letter of resignation on his desk and never showed up. And that's when I decided that I was going to find a way to get some of the digital income that lives on the internet. And it would be a little bit before I would actually get out of my own way and stop the analysis paralysis and the doom scrolling and actually take action. But that's really kind of the last, I would say, real career that I had before deciding to become an entrepreneur.
Okay. And now that's very interesting. And I'm glad that you put gems in there, because you're going to help a lot of people, and they're not going to realize it until they really go back and look at their lives and not do a comparison, but put it on a linear expression and say, hey, I had that same thing happen. I went and got the education. In your case, you served the military, and then things went along with you that made some trials, tribulations there. And then you decide to transition, and your transition, because that is a hard transition, and people don't understand that transition in thought pattern, from military to civilian, and then you have to go back to your military background because your education falls in there too from that. So you do two different transitions at one time: military, civilian, civilian, back to military, and you stay in military even though you're a civilian, and you build a community, the Stronghold community. Please tell me how that came about and how you decided that that would be a way to support veterans. And then here's the next thing, because I'm a podcaster just like you. I want to know the tough obstacles that came up with doing this, because I'm going to give you a story real quick. I told you earlier in our pre-call, and I do a podcast service that I do not charge for. And every person, every guru, every person said, JR, you're doing the wrong thing. You need to charge for this. But I said, it's stuff that if someone just did the research, they could just get this. I said, it's evergreen free content. I need to help people, but I don't want to charge them because I want to get money regardless. Because that person, I'm not looking at any monetary value from them. I'm looking at the thought that they're going to take that knowledge, go somewhere, advertise what they're doing, and say, hey, you know that guy JR, you should look him on your show. Next thing you know, that leads to other things. So that's how I had to transition in my mind instead of being like everybody, like do a course, do a course. But how did you make this transition from the insurance to what you are now?
Yeah, man. So that's kind of a long story, and I'll just give it to you. November of last year. So really, we have to back up to all the way to July of 2023.
Okay.
Was in a really dark place. I had left the insurance industry. I had told my wife, it's your turn. Like I moved you all the way across the country. You pick a place to live. We'll go live there. I'll figure out what we're gonna do, yada yada, the whole shebang. She picked Florida. Thank God. I love it here. I'm a beach bum. She had never been here. I have family here. My dad's an hour up the road. My sister's 20 minutes on the beach. And so, it ended up working out. Through that, I decided to go back to flight school to finish up CFI, and I was just gonna be a career pilot. I had apprehensions about that all through flight school just because you have to pay a lot of dues to get to the airlines or flying private jets, and it's kind of senseless. And also, if you spend 13 years in the military, you really don't want to start from the ground up when you go into a new field. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But I digress. So I'd gone back to flight school. I was a week away from taking the check ride. And I've told this story a bunch, but I, when I was in Washington State, originally in flight school, finishing commercial, right after I finished the commercial check ride, some tweaker broke into my house, stole a bunch of stuff to include my flight bag, which had my logbook in it. And when you're going to take a new check ride, you have to have the hours, and you have to have them accurate. So from your last check ride to your new check ride, long story short, I had to petition the FAA, send them a $2 check, a paper check, and a handwritten note saying I wanted these records. And their response to me was it'll take 4 to 6 months. So for 4 to 6 months, I worked probably the best job I've ever had. And I say this because it really was. I found a gig mowing grass on a sod farm here in
Oh, snap.
Florida.
Yeah.
It was actually really cool, man. From 7 to 5:30 every day, $1,000 a week after taxes, and you're literally left alone. Put your headphones in, listen to books, podcasts, all of that good stuff, right? Whatever you want, no responsibility. Go mow the assigned field, come back, take your breaks, do your lunch, same thing. Nobody bothers you. It really was a great job, man. It was the easiest money I've ever made. And it really kind of set the stage for everything that was going to occur for me, over the next few years. So I do that for 4 or 5 months. Right on time, the FAA sends me, the paperwork that I need. So I go and put in my notice and say, hey, I'm going back to flight school to finish this, go take this check ride, and then I'll be an instructor for, like 25, $26 an hour, which is way more than I was making in the sod farms. And the Sunday before I was supposed to go back and finish CFI, I tore my left bicep tendon. So why that matters is because when you're training to become a CFI, you sit in the right seat and you have to work the throttle with your left arm. So that kind of set me back, basically set me back an entire year. And that's when I reached kind of the darkest place I was in. I couldn't figure out I didn't feel like I was worth anything. I didn't feel like my life had any meaning or purpose. And I just kind of wanted to end it all. Like, just why am I alive kind of thing. But I discovered the Sean Ryan show while I was in the Sod Farms, and particularly his episode where he talks about going to Mexico to do Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT. And when he did the interview with his wife, where she interviews him, and they talk about all of the things that changed in his life from that experience, I immediately knew I had to pursue that, because the VA and pills is not the answer. So in July of 2023, I went to Tarapoto, Peru, and I got to do ayahuasca, a 3-night ayahuasca ceremony, and it changed my entire life. So I come back from that, and I immediately start like trying to figure out, what am I going to do? Like, what is this going to look like? Because I'm not going back to a traditional 9 to 5. I now know how to love and respect myself. I now know how to have confidence in myself and know that I'm capable of so much more than anybody ever gave me credit for. And that I don't have to play in this box that society has laid out for us. And so, I would spend from July until practically November trying to figure out what everything was going to look like and just learning. And this time it wasn't doom scrolling. It was learning, writing, trying different things, from whatever that looked like. So in November, the real catalyst is one of my very best friends was coming back. He's kind of a nomad. He's a single guy. We served together in Afghanistan. I was his superior for a little bit. We both got out around the same time. We're just best friends, really. He was coming back from a trip from Colombia, and he came to stay with me for about 3 months. And he's kind of the reason that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. He's always been very business minded, and kind of pointed me in the direction of being an entrepreneur and what that can unlock for us. So when he got here on November 5th, his challenge to me was, I want you to post something every day on LinkedIn and find 5 creators that resonate with you and engage with them, and just do it every day for a year. So I did, and I started just kind of throwing shit at a wall, seeing what would stick. I think I posted about SEO, I posted about personal branding, I posted about, you name it, I probably posted about it. And as I was doing that, people, I would have a hit every now and again. And then people would start DMing me and reaching out like, hey, you're a cool guy. Like, I'd love to have a meeting with you. Here's my calendar link, book some time with me. Well, that led to me being invited to a couple of communities where I would then learn and learn more and have, weekly, monthly discussions about what you can do to implement things and ideation and all kinds of stuff. And it just kind of started snowballing. And I would keep trying to find my way. And then it was suggested to me, like, why don't you work with veterans? And it's like, well, duh, right? Like,
Right there for you.
yeah, why not? So I don't really know how it all came about, man, but I pigeonholed myself into the veteran transition space, just kind of realizing what struggles I went through in the saw others on LinkedIn talking about and their struggles. And from there, it was suggested to me that I do a podcast because I'm not a guy who gets his message across through a keyboard and a post once a day on LinkedIn. So I started the podcast. And then from there, it was like the common thing that people that came on my show said that they really wish they would have had when they got out was community. And I was like, okay, well, let's take a look at this. There's plenty of Facebook groups, plenty of veteran Facebook groups. But if you look at all of those veteran Facebook groups and go spend any time in them, they're the most toxic places on the planet. And my personal opinion is they actually perpetuate the suicide epidemic, because you'll have people going in there trying to be vulnerable at their absolute lowest, darkest points, and they'll get ripped to shreds. And it even happened to me when I was in flight school. I would join some flying groups, particularly for instruments, and I would get ripped to shreds for asking questions from people who have 10, 15, 20 years in the industry. And it shouldn't be that way. So I was like, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to start a community. So I did. I started the Stronghold to be the antithesis of Facebook groups. And my community is, there's not a lot in there, man. I don't believe in fluff or bullshit. I don't believe in wasting my time to create a bunch of courses and resources that I don't even know that you need or want, right? So, my idea behind the Stronghold is to get as many veteran entrepreneur focused. It doesn't have to be for entrepreneurs, but transition veterans who are interested in doing more with their lives into my community, because the more we have, the more value it creates, the more I will then know what resources to build and create inside of the community. So what lives in there right now, I did a networking course with my philosophy on how we can network as veterans. And it's not fluff or BS. It's just the things that I have done on my journey in the last year to grow from 92 to over 5,600 followers on LinkedIn, which I'm not super sure that that's like really impressive. If you look at LinkedIn followers, it's kind of impressive. Like 5,000 is actually a lot, but if you're comparing it to Instagram or TikTok, it's pittance. It doesn't matter. But the fact is I still did it.
Right. And one thing I want to add in there is that any person you meet, touch, greet, and can move in any direction that helps them from a sadder or a worse state, that's the whole goal there. So you're already hitting that. So that's an amazing thing there. Now, one thing I need you to do real quick, something that we do on the show, and this is nostalgia. We do this thing called a shameless plug. Shameless plug is where people can meet and greet you across the internet, and so they know how to get directly in touch with you. The show notes will definitely have amazing things in it, but some people like to look at this audio. Some people, or the video, I didn't even look at the audio. If someone can look at audio, please let me know how you do that. So, Mr. Peters, take the floor and give us a shameless plug where people can meet and greet you across the internet and get intertwined in your ecosystem.
Yeah, man. The best places to find me is LinkedIn, Adam Peters. Used to be little salute emojis next to my name, but got a message last week saying LinkedIn was going to ban accounts for doing that because it's not professional. So remove that. And then my website, thestrategicveteran.com. You'll find everything there, from the newsletter to the podcast to the community to we got some other stuff about to launch here in the next week or two. So we're going to keep that secret for now, but you can find everything on the website.
Okay. Now, before we get into closing, because everybody knows our episodes are kind of tight and concise, I want to thank you for coming on. We didn't get to talk about a lot of different things, but here's some things that I want to get you to jab at in just a second for us. But I got to do something real quick for here. So here's a quick testimony. And it's something that's nostalgic from the original show. Here's a testimony for you, Mr. Peters. Here's the thing: you went out here in the world. You did the right thing, like Spike Lee, like everybody said. You followed the American dream. The American dream is tailored a certain way and it's manufactured a certain way. And anyone that could go to your podcast and can meet you or talk to you across the internet will get a derived story from you that tells the derivatives, and how things happen with you and how that American dream is not always the American dream. It's a pacified dream, correct?
It is.
And in doing so, you provide a service that no one else can give. I can never give that because I've never been there. I couldn't even fathom what you do. So I want to tell you thank you for that. That's something we need to get clear out here and in the open. And I know everybody gives you the praise for being a veteran and all that stuff like that. We did that earlier, so I'm not going to do that now. But I want to say this to you: in your reach, mental health advocacy, histologic wellness, plant medicine. Those are things that I'd like you to get right now and hammer into, and how everything in a bubble you do empowers veterans to thrive.
Yeah, so plant medicine has become really special to me. Through plant medicine, I learned that we've been lied to our whole lives. There's a lot of tools, tips, tricks, things out there that big pharma and big food have kept hidden from us, and it's really detrimental to us as human beings. So, I just encourage you to open your mind to some of these things that you will see me talking about regularly: gratitude practices, abundance mindset, mindfulness, breath work, yoga, even grounding exercises. All of these things are all of the things that I work with veterans on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to just give them this information and teach them how to implement it. I actually just released my own, it's a lead magnet, but it's a resource for veterans. It's my entire morning routine. And you'll see everything that I do and be able to adapt that to yourself to give yourself the best shot at transitioning well. And it's through all of those modalities that I just mentioned that we actually heal better. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be vulnerable and talk about your feelings. Yes, as a grown man, it's okay to cry because it's a release of emotion that if you don't release, will actually just make things worse on the inside. It'll spiral you. So all of these things are things that I learned. Couple that with fasting and movement of the physical body, doing something hard every day, and it's a recipe for success, man. It gives you the capacity to show up every single day and keep doing this thing that is so incredibly hard and oftentimes not rewarding at all. I have $0 and 0 cents coming in. I'm bleeding money right now, but I keep showing up every day because eventually it'll all turn around and I'll be exactly where I want to be. And I just have to keep that in mind. Mind over matter.
Right.
If you don't mind,
Right.
it don't matter.
Right.
Showing up and being 1% better every day.
Right. So on that note, I am J.R. Sparrow, and this is Adam Peters. And we're signing off, but here's one thing that we're going to do in the show notes, because every guest supplies me with an amazing amount of ways that they can meet and greet you across the internet and ways to get intertwined, just like he did with a shameless plug. Get involved, get into this man's ecosystem. He's pushing it across all types of platforms and things like that. And genuinely, you can see that there's someone that is not looking for a superlative. And that's the hardest thing to find in people because everybody can say, "Oh, I have no intentions. I'm aimless." Da 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 da. But in doing that, a lot of people look for a superlative, look for some type of reward, and you can see in you, Adam, that it's not there.
Oh, I can
So,
double down on that, brother.
all right. So definitely, everybody listening to this show, this thing will definitely be up on TikTok. So it'll be everywhere. It's gonna, we're gonna push it across all the medias and stuff like that. And another thing that I want you all to do, anytime in life, and this is my closing in life, we forget about this amazing thing with our mental health, the personal reflection. The personal reflection is something that you can just see. You can see that Adam somehow is fortified in that reflection. Because if you listen to what he said in this interview, you will recap and you will understand this. He told about defeat, but not failure. Defeat, defeat. He always kept a first place mentality to him. He never settled for the first place loser, which is second place. And that is something that being in the military, I've learned from you all that second place mentality is not embedded in you all at all.
No, no, it's resiliency, man. It's just being resilient. When you get knocked down, pick yourself back up and keep moving forward.
And that right there is the gem in the episode. We're signing off.